Hi everyone, long time no Facebook. So many of us, if not all of us, at this point are aware of the fact that Facebook is a corrupt technocratic entity that polices and censors and employs third-party fact checkers in order to make you feel assured that the information that you're engaging with is true and not misinformation. So you're told for your own good what's right and what's wrong, what's true and what's false. And a lot of people are falling for it and not bothering to actually go deeper beneath the surface into these actual fact-checked articles in order to read them and think to themselves, with discernment, is this actually true? Is this accurate? So one of the things that I found over the course of this so-called pandemic for the last year is that the fact-checked articles follow very similar patterns. And it seems to fool people quite well, but they go in on any claim and will essentially go off on a tangent. For example, that's one of the ways. It's like they will not deny the actual claim itself, but will go off and go point at the wallpaper, go talk about something else and distract you with a tangent. Be like, yeah, well, they didn't say this word, so misleading, so missing context, so false. And for example, they'll be going on about the semantics, like, this word actually means this, so therefore this claim can't be this, can't be that. Oftentimes, they'll just come right out and say that you didn't see that. That didn't happen. That's not what was said. But that's the statement, that's the fact-checked article. And because it appears to appeal to authority, the fact that somebody bothered to go in and say, nope, that was not said, probably a lot of people are believing this horse crap. So really, when you start digging a little bit deeper into what these claims actually are and what's being said, it actually comes out really funny and ridiculous. For example, there was the one I found as I was going through my old posts today that was talking about Hillary Clinton went into court. So what the fact checker said was, no, that's false. She didn't go into court because of COVID. It was a teleconference. I mean, I'm sorry. What is it that these third-party companies are actually doing with their little banners? What are they protecting you from? What are they informing you of? So that's why this is all actually part of a bigger picture and a bigger agenda. But before we get into that, let me just say that I started a page today called Fact Checking the Fact Checkers, because I've been doing this for a while where I go in and read what it is that they're doing and kind of look at the angle that they're taking, and oftentimes it's just so ludicrous that I even think to comment on it. But I've amassed a big review of all these different things, and I wanted to put it somewhere. So I made this page, and literally within 5 minutes it was restricted. It was done. It was done for. Fact checking the fact checkers isn't allowed on this platform. You can't point out the discrepancies. You can't call out their BS. It's like, within 5 minutes, this page was restricted. It got no posts out. None of the posts that I posted could go through the line. It was basically with a banner saying, we've put a restriction on your ability to share in groups and pages, even though they're your own. Because, if I remember correctly, not too long ago, within the last year and before that, if you started a page for yourself, you were the one that was responsible for what you shared to that page. Apparently not anymore. Apparently not anymore. That's doctored and that's monitored, especially if you are one of the seeds of the revolution. We'll talk about that in a second as well, but there's a particular number of people that have been identified as little seed terrorists in the online space. And there's a vast amount of restriction and censorship that happens to these people whereby they're no longer able to conduct their business from their business pages. There's constant restrictions. They're no longer able to share their opinion on their own pages because of shadow banning and the algorithm being tweaked so that none of their things are even being seen. But yeah, that's another topic, the censorship overall and what it connects to. But within these 5 minutes, restriction on the ability to post on the pages. The next thing that happened was I'd invited a bunch of people to the page. Randomly, a couple of hours later, I suddenly get a restriction saying, you've exceeded the number of invitations that you can send to people in order to like a page. It's like, have I? Have I really? It's like, this is for community standards. This is for our well-being. This is for our safety. We feel unsafe because I've created a page that I'm going to put commentary on, where I'm going to talk about things. And for once, fact check these fact checkers with their blatant lies and claims about things that a person that lacks critical thinking or doesn't have that much discernment at face value would look at it and think, this sounds put together. This is full of jargon, makes sense. You know, this gets the banner of truth from these so-called fact checkers. This gets approval of this Facebook team, so therefore it must be true. All of this kind of stuff is really, really worrying. But for me, the days on this platform are numbered, and I've put up multiple posts. So if you haven't seen those, because there is a lot of shadow banning going on in my page, feel free to message me your contact details. I'll keep you in mind for a list I'm going to be making for alternative platforms and things I'm working on moving my content to. Because it gets a little bit restrictive and ridiculous for a creator to not be able to get their words out there, to not be able to share their perspective because of this constant trying to keep us safe from information thing. But what people need to understand is that this is it's so vast. The scope of this is so vast. We're in the midst of modern day burnings. It goes to the point of just deleting entire things from our history as if they never existed, fact checking them and rewriting them and framing them in a certain way so that anybody of the new generations or the people that are just now getting into the bend of searching for things will never find them. I mean, that's specifically what's happened with these technocratic sites. They have just banned and released and removed anything that goes against the narrative. That was not always the case. There was all sorts of stuff that you could find before. I saved so much information and spent so much time looking into it, and it's just not the case anymore. They're cracking down. So you have to find alternative means of, getting your information before we get to the actual book burnings, before we actually throw books out in the street and set them on fire. But that kind of thing is literally happening in the way that people's perception is being molded. And up until now, so many people don't seem to think that this is dangerous whatsoever. In fact, blindly cheering it on when they see it. Yes, you're making our platform safe because you are removing things that could potentially be fake. Yes, you're making our lives safe because you're just removing entire people off of platforms, locking them out without any access. Where do you think this is going? Where do you think it leads to? This is the kind of thing, the big picture that people are not thinking about whatsoever. Another level that I want to bring into it, because I made a post yesterday and somebody actually asked, well, I don't really understand what the point of what it is that you're saying. Imagine if, we already know that all of our data is being shared between platforms and being given to third parties and advertisers, and that the role of social media, perhaps not the newer platforms that are there to actually reward your work, will not censor you, and so on. Perhaps the role of actual social media giants is to mold your perception. Perhaps the role of it is to actually prime you for the people that pay them, which is the advertisers. So it's choosing and selecting your newsfeed. It's choosing the cookies and the things that you see through your algorithm so that you can be better prey for whoever it is that's trying to mine data off of you and target you with certain things. So it's actually pretty dangerous in that sense. So in one way, it can be something fantastic that connects us to other people and allows us to speak our truths, to share information. It gets sticky, though, when we're doing it in a non-mindful way, or when we're in the midst of something like now, when there's blatant censorship and things going around attempting to protect you from information supposedly for your own good. It really is an issue when this happens. We really are not looking at the big picture. So, for example, on the issue of data mining, in that post yesterday, I said, well, how would you feel if you were denied service because somebody had access to your search results, to your past history of search results? Whatever that may be. This is something we believe to be private, but it's not really. All this information is out there. But what if It was not actually for your own good that this was private, but that it was shared. What if we're actually getting into something that the Great Reset itself sets out for you? Greater connectivity. Why? For greater access to healthcare and better outcomes. This is the icing on the cake. That's the surface. That's what we're looking at. Let's dig a little bit deeper. What does that actually mean? Well, it literally means no privacy. That's what it means. It means everything's connected at all times. Everything you do is monitored and surveilled at all times. We're talking about cashless society here. This is something that was engineered into people as a good thing, particularly with the COVID crisis. Oh no, money's infected. We better get quick onto this digital life. Yeah, okay, sure. That means that you cannot do anything without the approval and the stamp of the state. It means that all transactions and things are followed and monitored. It means that there literally is a way for you to be cut off. So if everything that you have and all of your dependence is on the state, then if you are not following the rules, if you have too few social credit scores, you can simply be locked out of society. Oh, now you can't access your bank anymore. Now you can't enter this store. Now you can't do that. Over the course of the last year, we talked about various things that were red flags in that subject area. For example, the introduction of a COVID-19 passport, a vaccination passport. Now, on the surface, once again, we do want to dive a little bit deeper in order to access some critical thinking and discernment. But on the surface, that sticker, what it is supposedly positive to people. Oh yes, it's health, track and trace, wonderful. We control who goes where, and this is for health and this is for safety. Okay, digging a little bit deeper, we get to the point where does this end? Where does it end? It's not a one size fits all. It's not a black and white subject. Is it genuinely all right to people that they would be denied service because of their own personal circumstances, because they're unable to take a certain vaccine, because they're unable to prove a certain thing? I don't know who these people are that are actually cheering for a more documented, surveilled government life, but they are not thinking things through. And also, they do not seem to have the oversight and understanding of history and patterns in order to see that, okay, this doesn't work, and this is not going somewhere pretty. And transhumanism and merging with AI is something that is going to convolute and take away the essence of humanity. But this is why it is that we are here and we're thinking about things and we're waking up to these things. And one of the last things that I wanted to say right now about this subject is that I felt particularly strongly that this is a time to step back from things and not allow so many different things to cloud your perception, to cloud your awareness. It's why I took a really much needed big break, particularly off this platform, not only because the censorship is rampant, but because I grew tired of consistently filling my mind with people's perceptions and articles and views to start my day with and live by. I wanted to find my own tenets and I wanted to find my own truth. And so that's something that we can do in order to be mindful and use these types of platforms in a safe way. It's like, take the space that you need to allow information to filter through you, to give you some space. And we don't constantly need to be connected. We don't constantly need to be surveilled. And that's going to be a topic that I explore further in the future about, what is the point of all of that? But just taking some time away from all of this noise in order to give ourselves the ability to think a little bit more critically about what's going on around us. But that being said, for most people, getting that banner of a fact check or being called a conspiracy theorist or a bit of censorship actually means that you're doing the wrong thing. It actually means that you are in danger to society. And for those people of that caliber, I would say you need to do a little bit more research. But there is also a different class of people that I would like to direct this at, because I've found it to be particularly interesting. There's a group of people in the transformational space, a lot of leaders and health coaches and business owners, entrepreneurs, who seem to find it interesting that my platform would have been restricted to the degree that it has been for the last year. Oh, why? Are you just sharing conspiracy theories? Like, what are you doing wrong? Right. So the onus on me is to provide an explanation as to why my livelihood has been brought to zero and I cannot express my opinion on my own page, right? Well, let me just put it this way. Sharing information and thinking critically about it is actually a skill. So it doesn't mean that you're consistently sharing any old thing that you see, and you should have the right to be able to think about things and put up your own opinion, put up how you feel about that. Apparently, a lot of people don't believe in that. Apparently, a lot of people think that you're restricted only if you are actually a raving lunatic and you've shared dangerous information that's endangering people's lives. And so what that means is that you should stay in your lane, speak only about your subject in order to protect your business, of course, and your life and your reputation. And never talk about anything that you see going on around you. So don't use your eyes, don't use your ears, certainly don't rework what it is that you're experiencing around you. Don't ever try to explain it to anybody. It's a little bit ridiculous. It is a little bit ridiculous. It's like the amount of justifications you find to platforms like this, restricting your livelihood and deciding whether what you say is right or wrong. It's absolutely ridiculous. And also, when it comes to actually fact-checking the fact-checkers, I wish the things that they were saying were intelligent. I really do. Because I've looked into it, and of course I'm restricted on this new page now, so I can't get that out to you except on my own page. But it's absolutely unintelligent drivel. So the good news is gathering all of this information to put it elsewhere, to give me peace of mind from this ridiculous kindergarten, don't go near this person, don't do this, don't do that. And to actually give me some space to actually explore and experience the world without these mishaps and little regulations and authoritarian rules. So a lot more coming about things to do with the nature of reality and why things are as they are and why we really don't need to get that triggered or reactionary, why we don't really need to get that involved. Things are going to take their course no matter what, but that's why energy is always paving a new path. It's always finding a new way to express and experience itself. So the end of the road is not with fact checkers, with censorship, or with losing your platform. Take the time to actually find out what matters to you, what's your voice, what are your priorities, gather your data because, it could be lost at any moment. But good art never sleeps. An artist never sleeps. We only go into a deep state of rest in order to reevaluate. Pull back from stimuli because things have been too much. And when you pull back, you receive far, far more. And you can rework that information for a later date because that is what art is. That's what commentary is. It will never be beaten out of the human spirit. And I think that's my message for the day. Fact checking the fact checkers. You don't own the truth. Have a great day, everyone.